There's been some question over whether or not the governor of the state of Utah would welcome the president of a different party. I think it's insane that we are having those conversations in our country today. I so appreciate my blue state partners, governors who welcomed President Trump, and we welcome President Biden here. We honor this office of the presidency. When the president succeeds, America succeeds, and we want to find ways to work together.
As Republican Governor Spencer Cox of Utah making way too much sense, responding to critics who are attacking him because he would even greet President Biden when Biden visited his state this week. Jonathan Lemire is still with us. Let's bring into the conversation the host of the podcast On Brand with Donny Deutsch. Donny Deutsch, CNBC founder and editor-at-large for Newsweek, Tom Rogers, special correspondent at Vanity Fair, and the host of Fast Politics podcast, Molly Jong-Fast, and MSNBC host, Mehdi Hasan. It's great having all of you here. And, you know, Molly, the way politics used to work is I used to say terrible things as a Republican congressman about Bill Clinton and his policies, and he drove me absolutely crazy. And you know what I said to him when a hurricane came through Northwest Florida and he came down to visit? Thank you, Mr. President. Our small business owners, thank you. Our, hospitals, thank you. Everybody, thanks. And what happened? What happens when you actually do that? You go, okay, listen, there are a lot of things that this guy drives me crazy about, but maybe we can work on long-term health care for federal employees. Maybe we can work on relocating people on toxic waste sites. And that's exactly what happened. Met him. He helped people in Northwest Florida. And we found things, again, that actually helped everybody. And it just doesn't happen enough. It's like this is their jobs, for God's sake, to represent their constituents. And when the guy from Washington, D.C. comes in who can help small businesses and everybody else, let him in.
You were not part of the Burn It Down caucus, right? The Marjorie Taylor Greenes and the people who were just completely crazy running hearings.
Well, I don't know. People thought I was pretty crazy. There were some crazy, there were some crazy people, but it was more like with the leaders.
Right.
It's a, hey, stop. Right. Don't. But now there's none of that.
Well, McCarthy has no power over his caucus. And we see this again and again. And that's why it took so many votes to install him. And that's why there's a person motion to vacate. And he's just hanging on. And so the lunatics are running the asylum.
Yeah, Donny, you were, of course, far more than just the podcast operator of On Brand with Donny. You're like legendary ad man, legendary brand person, and you are. I mean, I had a close friend who was an ad guy in Pensacola, and you were like, It's hard to believe, but you were like his North Star. I'd say, look at what he's doing in this ad campaign. Look what he's doing there. No, but I just say that to set it up because, if Mika were here, she'd be making fun of you. So we got a little free time here. But I have a radical belief that goes against everything that a lot of people say about politics. And that is people love seeing that.
They do.
The base may not love seeing that, but they are so hungry to have somebody stand in front of a camera and say, listen, I believe in this, 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 and this. I believe this on abortion. I believe this on guns. I believe this on balancing the budget. I believe. But at the same time, I believe in working with the other side. I believe in us debating those issues, doing our best to find common ground where we can, but spending most of our time working for the American people, working for you, and doing that together. I really do believe that's like, you talk about the secret sauce. That's the secret sauce in the future of American politics. And it's a revolution waiting to happen of kindness, of generosity, of compassion, of cooperation.
There was a Gallup poll that said the number one thing people want in their candidates, in their presidential candidates, is the ability to work with the other side, is the ability to reach across the aisle. It's interesting. You said that people feel a certain way. We're voters. We vote. And I watch that clip and you go, yeah, like you actually feel good. There's something that emotionally, we're so used to the combat and the antagonism and the hatred and the anger, and you just naturally lean back. something like that, the governor of Utah comes on and has talked about welcome the president, you lean in. I interviewed Chris Christie a few weeks ago, and I remember we started talking about how during Hurricane Sandy, when he took buff because he was welcoming President Obama, when he ran for office in 2016, he had to answer the fact that during a tragedy that he was locking arms with the president of the United States. And it's ridiculous. And you just said, Joe, wouldn't it be revolutionary if somebody came on and said, we're going to reach across the other side? Wouldn't it be a revolution?
And the thing is, most people that when they're asked that question are defensive, the correct answer is, what are you, stupid? I got the president of the United States coming, and he can help Tom, who has a hardware store on Main Street, whose roof got blown off, who's struggling. I'm not supposed to talk to him to help my people? What are you, dumb? I think if people are going to aggressively attack them for cooperating, they need to push back. And this governor, you know, this isn't the first time he said stuff that's interesting. You know, huge trans debate. Do we let trans athletes compete in a high school and college? And, you know, most of Americans and even the International Sports Federation have decided that post-puberty males that transition should not be competing against girls and young women, right? That's where most of Americans are. But in Utah, they were trying to ban all trans athletes, right? He vetoed the bill. And when he vetoed the bill, which they overrode, he said, listen, here's the deal. Okay, we're making a huge deal out of this. There are a total of 4 trans athletes in the state of Utah. Can we not find a compassionate solution to help these 4 kids? Because this isn't about politics. This is 4 kids we're dealing with. Can we not come together? And we can handle 4 children, can we not? Regardless of what they're going through. And I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was exactly what America needs to hear.
And it was human. And the governor got fierce.
And it was human.
It was human.
And that was the problem, I guess.
Yeah, and he got fierce blowback for that. And he has other times as well. You'll recall during his campaign, he shook hands with his opponent. They had a vow of civility for that debate. And I also want to say, I think it's important, especially important, to have a welcoming like that, which you should do all the time for respect for the office and all that. But especially hours after it was revealed there was a credible assassination plot against President Biden in that state, in Utah. An assassination plot that was seemingly fueled by some of this online hate and rhetoric so often espoused by the governor's party. And by doing this, by saying that, look, this is our president, he is welcome in our home, he is welcome in our state, extraordinarily important message.
And it is for both sides. And, you know, there are people I see all the time that I think their policies are damaging America. You sit there and you talk to them. You try to figure out if you can meet them somewhere halfway. And sometimes you can't. But you just keep trying. If you love this country, I think you just keep trying.